Comrades, Syria is not just another imperialist adventure. It's not just some pirate ships leaving the bay to loot another nation for a little while. Syria is the defining war of this period of imperialism. And there's a lot to say about it, but I don't have much time, so I'm going to stick to the most important parts of our role as people in the West in regards to Syria and the war that the United States, the CIA, their proxies and allies are leading against Syria. But just for a quick plug, if you want to hear a little more in-depth stuff about Syria, we're having a socialism conference March 25th in Detroit. So we'll get a little more analysis there. But like I said, the war against Syria is a proxy war that in some ways has been decades in the making, ideologically through many reactionary forces, and also physically by the redrawing of the map in the Middle East. The war in Syria, the war against Syria, would not be possible without the last 15 and really, decades longer of wars in the Middle East and Northern Africa against their peoples to destroy their states and their ability to determine their own destiny. Without the destruction of Iraq, without the continued occupation of Afghanistan, without the total devastation of Libya, this campaign against Syria could not be waged by the imperialists right now. A lot of people throw around the term regime change to describe the imperialist aims in Syria. And it creates this image of one group of people leaving a state and another entering. This is not the aim of the war against Syria, and don't let anybody tell you that. The aim is the complete liquidation of Syrian society and the Syrian state. After independence from France, Syrians built a pluralistic state against colonialism and against Zionism. And the whole crux of this war has been to take their self-determination and their ability to defend themselves out of their hands and to entirely redraw the country. The war in Syria is also a war against the resistance axis that Syria is an important part of, bordering the Zionist entity. This war is putting us at risk of a global conflict, bringing closer together the two opposing camps right now in the global sphere, the US and the other side led by Russia. It also, if the Syrian state were to be dissolved, it puts all colonized countries at risk of total balkanization and would set them back for decades. The place we're at right now, these countries, this region, these societies that have been prospering for thousands of years will not recover for decades. And if it continues like this, there might be nothing left. And a lot of places, there is nothing left but ruins. Despite Trump's empty promises, like Greg was saying, he has no power or intention to step back the US role in Syria.
That's right.
There is no turning back. We have funneled into this country thousands of mercenaries, heavy weapons. We fueled the most reactionary, right-wing supremacist ideologies in the region. And this isn't something that you just turn off like a switch when you come into office. This is something that is up to the Syrians to fight, and it is for us to help them fight that. I also want to be very clear, the United States and its so-called coalition is not fighting ISIS or Daesh in Syria. They are not fighting Al-Qaeda. They've supposedly been fighting a war on terror, whatever that means, for 15 years, and this terror has become 1,000 times stronger, 1,000 times more fierce. They are, in some ways, direct proxies of us. That might not mean that we can tell them exactly what to do or that we have an on and off switch or something, but our interests right now are materially aligned, and we have continued to materially support them. We have to look out in the near future, not only for US escalations, but for escalations on the part of the Turkish state. The NATO center in the Middle East, now that the Turkish state is entering a civil war and continuing to deteriorate and furthering its imperial ambitions. This is also out of our hands in this way and out of Trump's hands. Turkey is threatening to make this war a bigger NATO war. And aside from all this backstory, self-determination for Syrians is above all else, the biggest goal right now.
That's right.
And this self-determination extends past Syria itself. Millions of Syrians and other people from the region have been forced into Europe, and we need to support their self-determination in Europe. Trump's victory marks the second big win for neo-fascism in this period right now, and that puts Syrians' lives at risk, not only in Syria, but all across Europe. Workers' World Party and its allies have always been strong proponents of self-determination, and we need to continue to build on this principle in every way possible and build a united front against this war. The Hands Off Syria coalition that's been formed, that Joe mentioned earlier, we all have the statement in our folders. Get every group you know to sign on, every struggle. Let's build the broadness of the struggle. Just like black people are being lynched on the streets of this country every day, supremacist death squads like the pigs in Syria are murdering Christians, Kurds, Druze, Sunnis who don't believe the same thing as them. It is an all-out genocide, and we have to make connections between these struggles at home and the struggles abroad. Standing Rock needs to be standing in solidarity with self-determination of Syrians. They're fighting the same fight against the same oppressor. A nation that oppresses others will never be free. The only road to peace is US out of the Middle East. The only road to peace is US out of the Middle East. The only road to peace. US out of the Middle East. The only road to peace. US out of the Middle East. Thank you.